man, I just knew you were going to go, man. You were going to go places. And I knew it.
Yeah.
When you're happy, I'm happy.
Yeah.
And when you win, I win. What was your first impression of me?
You had all the answers. You were super, I would say the word pretentious, but I don't know if that's the right word. You're just very matter of fact about everything.
Like whatever, man.
Yeah, no, you were right. You still are. Okay,
Well,
so,
my first impression of you is that you were loud and you gave bad advice.
I'm still loud. Hopefully my
No, I think your advice has changed.
Hopefully.
But that you were a know-it-all too.
Yeah.
I don't know.
How about
Pretentious
that?
is what I think.
Yeah.
Maybe we both had the same opinion of each other.
Probably why we got along so well. 2 peas in a pot. Okay. What led you to prison?
I robbed a bank. What led you to prison?
I robbed a store.
Where did you meet me?
Yeah, I met you in the library of the Prison Fellowship Academy. I was in there studying at a large library, and I don't know if I ever told you this. The reason I used to go to the library is because I made a commitment to the Lord. I will learn everything I can about the Bible so that I could answer all my daughter's questions when she had them. And I probably was doing, more talking than I was learning, but it was in the library is where I met you.
No, I remember that too. It was the library. I was working in the library, and you'd come in and do that. And I think it's so interesting because these assumptions that we make, right? I mean, that man, look at this dude, man.
Right.
Like he's in here, like
Right.
John all the time, and
John.
reading half a book, which I know you still do.
Very much so. You saw my
Yeah, I know.
bookshelf.
but it's like but you had this other motivation that I'd made an assumption about that I had no idea, and so I think it's just assumptions can really do a lot of damage, and so I think that's. I think it's just one of the benefits of us just having these conversations. You push those assumptions aside, and you get to know the real person and how they're making decisions and things of that nature. So you assume the best about somebody versus the worst.
That's really good. That's really good. When did your opinion of me start to change?
I don't think it was a moment in time, because I think what forced us together was I worked in a library and then you were in the library a lot.
Yeah.
And so I think I don't remember what it was, but I remember we just started having, it was probably about dinosaurs or something, but something silly or stupid like that. And I don't remember a point in time, but I just remember it was this consistency.
Right.
And then we just started having conversations, and but it was more organic. It wasn't like this, we're going to meet every Tuesday. And
Right.
So it was this,
Right.
and I probably laughed at you trying to play basketball or something. But
horrible.
I know. So I don't know. But it was, but it's interesting because even as a black guy and you're bad at basketball.
I know. There you go.
You're breaking my stereotypes,
I have no
man.
rhythm. I can't sing.
I know. Dude, are you black?
Right, exactly. So only you can get away with saying that to me.
I know, right? But I can't do either of those things either. So,
that's right.
So it's not like you have these certain bonds that like may break some racial divides. Like if you're white and you're good at basketball, or like
that's very good. That's very good.
That you can throw beats. You're like Eminem or something. Like there's those types of things that you can kind of man, he's cool, because he's like us or whatever. But you and I I don't know, like we didn't have any of those things, and so there was these other things that kind of brought us, which was more. I don't want to say academic, but it was these conversations and these things. I mean, you were really thirsty to learn.
I was.
I think you're still that way, but you just wanted to know as much as you possibly could.
And I became your roommate. And it wasn't even. If the question is when did it start to change, it's when I found out you fought for me. Because then I knew we weren't just associates, but you went to bat for me behind my back. And then for me, that was we had worked out together, I had fouled you a lot. I won't say we played basketball, but I fouled you a lot, on the court. Remember we were on the same worship team? Bro, how did I get on the worship
I don't know,
team?
man.
I can't sing.
You can't, man.
We had those things, but it was that moment where I went, this guy's for me. And even with the whole academic thing, in my opinion, you are, and I've said this, you're one of the smartest people I know. Your brain and the way you process and think system, structure, put things together. I knew you were smarter than me. You're older than me. We've always had this kind of, you're like a big brother to me. You kind of ride me. You know, you push me. You make me look up words in the dictionary. Like, I don't know what that word means. Look it up. But I welcome that because you were safe. You have become a safe person for me.
Still wrong. What caused our friendship to grow deeper?
I would say hope and suffering. There was hope for something better. I think our faith was being tested. It was, in the moment, like you have to live that out. That's a present thing. Hope is, one day when I get out, I want to do these things. And we both had that, we talked about it earlier, like we have been captured by a greater vision of what life could be, by this God we couldn't see, but we could see his activity in our lives. And then suffering. I mean, nothing produces intimacy like shared suffering. And there's just the missing our families, regret. There is, we've had friends, lose their children, while we were in prison. And we have friends die. And that, you can't replace that. For me, it was the shared hope and the shared suffering. What would you say?
Yeah, I think it was when we moved in, when we became cellies. Because I remember us having a conversation like, hey, we sure want to do this? Like, we got kind of this good thing going. Yeah. Like, do we want to live together? I mean, that's kind of,
level.
Yeah, I don't think most people understand, like, you're in the 6x9 with another dude, and you got a toilet. And so, hey, come on in. You're like, that's a different level of knowing somebody right there. And so, like, I remember us having the conversation, like, should we do this? And we were in, but
we were.
Man, I remember us, the guards, the COs coming by doing count checks at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Man, we'd be up and doing all types of things, man, talking and crying, figuring life out. Yeah. And I think those things was when we were like, spitting dreams, praying for people and for each other.
Oh, man.
I mean, we would we'd fast every Monday. I don't know what we did.
Like, every Friday
we would do that. And we would try to stay up all night and pray all night, man.
Yeah.
And but I was like, all those things, I think, just really, like, I felt like, brought our friendship to a different level. Yeah. So I think it was, again, it's that proximity and
we did life together.
And just like that transparency. And I wouldn't require that,
right.
For anybody. But when you're in that situation,
right.
It can create, I think the depth with somebody. So
it strips it all away.
Yeah, man. It's just, you're in this little pod and
that's it. This is a good one, bro. In what ways was your friendship costly? How did it cost you to be my friend?
Man. Well, I think on a personal level, it cost me, it was risky. I think anytime you put yourself out there is risky. Mm-hmm. But, I had to be able to give some of myself away, which I think is hard for anybody to do, but you have to be able to let go of these beliefs or even about yourself, in order to do that. And I think, so for me, that's a risk. Yeah. And I think just being even from white culture, we're very reserved. Yeah. I might need a little bit of that in my life, right. I don't need to be so reserved, or I don't need to think that this is the only way to do it. So for me, it was more personal. I think just understanding what the risk was like. Okay, do you want to just kind of be on this one singular path versus do you want to expose yourself to this other way of looking at the world and live a richer life? Ultimately, is kind of where I landed.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, I think there is, the important part to delineate is that there was a cost and there is a cost friendships of any kind are costly, but especially intimate friendships, especially amongst people who aren't naturally like each other. We just naturally gravitate toward people. Like, I'm not best friends with people who like hockey if I'm in love with basketball, right? I mean, you form your friendships around your hobbies, your habits, these kind of homogeneous things that make us, how are we the same? Well, what's the same is we're both males, we're both in prison, and we both happen to be in prison for robbery. Apart from that, right, on the surface, nothing's the same. So then you have to go a little deeper, which is where the gold is, which is where the precious things are. And I think, so it is costly because you got to excavate, you got to dig in there. And so I think it was costly for a lot of reasons, people's perception. Am I going to trust this guy? Is he going to trust me? It's costly because you have to stay at the table. Like, you can say things to me that other people can't say to me, but it's a risk for you to do that, and it don't happen overnight. There's a humility. There's also grace. I mean, I'll have to give you grace to say things in a way that could have offended me. I could be like, bro, like, how do you have that narrative or, hey, I don't like that joke, but it was like, I know it's heart, and vice versa. To go, why are you prejudging me, Q? Why are you assuming these things about me? Or why are you unwilling to see my perspective? Why do you have to be convinced that the narrative that you have as a black man is the only narrative and the right narrative? And, you start talking like these buzzwords like white guilt and white fragility and, critical race theory. You got all these buzzwords that are just, man, they're like light sockets, You have to have a real friend who goes, can we talk beyond buzzwords?
Right.
And I'm going to say it wrong. I'm going to think it wrong and just assume that I don't have the right narrative about your ethnicity. Can you help me? And I think that's costly. And people don't want to, well, two things. Either they don't count the cost because they're not aware. I'm just going to be friends with a black guy. I'm going to be friends with a white guy. They're not counting the cost. Or when the bill comes, they go, I'm not willing to pay that cost.
Right.
And so I think it's always costly friendship.
I think sometimes you're afraid what you might find. Because,
sure.
So like you're like, well, I don't really know if I want to look behind that door. I'm pretty comfortable right here.
Right.
I've done my due diligence. I've opened these other two doors,
Right.
I can feel pretty good about myself, give myself a pat on the back and go forward. But I think that, the further you get in, the more of yourself you lose for both parties.
That's great.
So it's not like there's this one master narrative that yes, you're going to come into my way of thinking. It's not what it is, because I think both of us, even though we came at whatever issue it was from our own strong belief systems, but in the end, I think in most of those, even though we may not have solved it, each of us have moved. Like for you and I, like I know like there's a safe place there. Like you're right. Like, hey, this is what I think.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what that means or why I think that, but this is how I feel, and help me process that. Name a highlight in our friendship, something you'll never forget.
You were my best man in my wedding. I got to be the best man in your wedding. I remember the toast at your wedding. I remember weeping and saying, we walked through the valley of Baca. And just seeing you so happy with Melissa. That was really good.
Yeah, it's good.
That was really good. Yeah.
I think for me it was, I don't know, there was something, I remember we were in prison in Rockwell, and we were trying to be church planners or whatever we were trying to do back then.
We were, bro.
Yeah, it's true.
We did it. We planted that thing and it grew. It was healthy.
It was, man.
Yeah.
But I remember they wanted, whoever was, like people wanted, there's so many politics, there's politics everywhere, right?
Everywhere.
But they wanted to kick you out or not have you in leadership.
Yeah.
And I just like, I just went to bat. But I knew I had this like vision or this picture that, man, I just knew you were going to go, man. You were going to go places. And I knew it. And I knew there were times that you didn't know it. But if I ever did anything in my life, I wanted to propel you.
Yeah. You have.
Because there's that je ne sais quoi. There's that thing
Yeah.
that you can't articulate,
Yeah.
and that sometimes, God's grace gives you the ability to see it, and that's it, man. So when you're happy, I'm happy, and when you win, I win.
Yeah. That's good.
And so, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.